Good old Armani and good old Fragcom hyping this thing like they've never seen a versatile fragrance before. Remember this guy? Yeah, top seller in the men's game. Armani did their thing with ADG. Well, they darkened it a bit. There it is. And they darkened the bottle too. They made it a little more modern, a little sexier as far as the presentation goes. Big whoop-de-doo. They repackaged it. The one thing with Profumo is I don't see the hype. I don't see it. Keep it tuned in and see why not. YouTube fragrance family, welcome to another Robes 08 fragrance review. Today I'm putting my nose on the house of Armani, their top selling hype monster, ADG Profumo. I got the little itty bitty bottle, and just because my $80 Canadian is not enough, they didn't give me a magnetic cap. Oh, woeful me. Prior to the review, I'd like to thank my partner in crime, FragranceX.com, for this fragrance. You can utilize my code ROBES08 for this fragrance or any other fragrance on their site and get a sweet 15% off on any of those fragrances. As little as your purchases, it can be a little $10 sample right up to a $1,000 haul if you want to. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this fragrance. Let's take a look at the scent profile. So let's get under the hood with this fragrance. The release date for Profumo was 2015. Concentration is Eau de Parfum. The nose behind this one is Alberto Marias. The nose behind the original ADG, the Absolu version, the Incense, and the new Instinct. He's done so many scents in his resume, I could do just a video on that. Stay tuned. Classification or olfactory group, it's all over the place on the internet. Some people are calling this an earthy, woody fragrance, aromatic, aquatic fragrance. I would have to pin it with the original. I really think it pulls a lot from the original. Of course, it's a little darker than the original, but I would have to say the main theme on this one is still ozonic and aquatic as a fragrance. Now, let's take a look at the note breakdown on this one. Up top, we have bergamot and aquatic notes. I really hate generic note breakdowns like this. Aquatic notes doesn't bode well. We look at the mid or the heart. We have geranium, sage, and rosemary. So we got some herbs coming through, and it kind of reminds me of the original as far as the note breakdown goes. We got a green-blue theme going on here. And in the back end of this fragrance, in the base, we have patchouli and incense. And good thing to note on these two notes, because a lot of fragrance reviewers do emphasize on the patchouli and incense in this fragrance. And I'm not going to do that much on this fragrance. It has more than just patchouli and incense. And to be quite honest, I'm not a fan of those notes utilized in this fragrance. So I can't wait to delve into that. So the key notes from my nose in this fragrance, it's definitely the aquatic notes. The aquatic theme in this fragrance is still very much alive. The patchouli is a big boy in this fragrance too. And the rosemary, you're going to see that I skipped incense, and I'll keep you tuned in on that. But the rosemary does show its herbal side to the fragrance. So you're still going to think that you're in Italy or in Greece, just on the side of the beach. It really has that feeling, but darkened. So let's get into the opening of Profumo. Let me remind me of this introduction again. This is my scent of the day today, as every full-fledged fragrance review does. The opening of Profumo just doesn't blow me away. It really never did. And through my testing, and I've given this as much chances as I could, I just never felt the excitement some fragrance reviewers do with this one. Top 10 all day, every day. Ever since I've purchased this, I never really thought of putting this in one of my top 20 lists ever. The opening of ADG Profumo starts off very familiar to the original. I do like the original. Again, I wasn't a ADG fanboy. It is familiar to the original ADG. I'm going to give it that. That opening is very much the same. There is no mistaking this scent that is not derived by ADG. They're very much alike up top. You're going to be met with a highly aquatic tone, and there is a citrus tone to the feeling, to the fragrance up top. That familiar take just brings me back to the 90s, actually. This thing feels really out of place in these years. I mean, it really feels that it's taken a 90s potion and they tried to slap something, Incense and Patchouli, to make it a little more modern. That's how it feels. It feels very 90s to me. So the originality of this particular fragrance gets thrown out the window immediately. I didn't really feel that this thing is original at all. It doesn't stand out in this day and age. Now, this feels like it's this generation's ADG. And I guess that's a node to the original. I mean, it's saying the original formula. Again, a top seller across the world. This thing smashes sales-wise. Still sells well to this day. That's why we're getting flankers of it. But it really feels like this is really piggybacking on what this made very popular in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, and still kicking around. It's still doing a great thing. There's a good reason why this one has been a top seller for years and years and years. When people gravitate to a top seller like this back in the 90s, a lot of people just stick with the old tried and true. So once their bottle runs out, they just go out and buy another one, and another one, and another one. They really don't delve into the fragrance game like perhaps me and you. And one day they may just stumble upon this one because it's the shiny new bottle, it's the new top seller, and this may get replaced with this. Even if 10% of people that have gravitated towards this one want to change it just a little bit, that salesperson just gets a little pushy and pushes this one. It's close enough to this one that they may actually purchase this. So 10% of sales on this one gravitates towards this one. You got yourself a success already. This thing kills in sales. So going back, it doesn't move much from it, especially up top. I believe this one's a lot brighter, and it really shows you that clean aromatic feel that you're so comfortable with in the men's game. And this one darkens it up just a tad. So now they got two top sellers on their hands. Win-win. Now let's start peeling the layers of Profumo, but this one is still closely behind. I do want to compare them just a little bit. This is not a comparison video. This is all about this guy, but you don't have this guy if you don't have this one being a top seller across the world. So the initial hit of ADG Profumo, let me get another hit here. Here, get a couple for you. And, you know, I was a Le Male fanboy. I was never in ADG in the 90s. I was not that type of guy. I appreciate this classic, and I understand what it is. At the same time, I was not a huge fan of it. I really felt like this fragrance was not very, I hate saying this, but not very authentic. It really didn't feel like at the beach. The aquatic tones are very synthetic, and they still are in this one. They're very ozonic. They're very aquatic, and it does feel blue. But at the same time, it just doesn't do it for me. There's much better fragrances out there that do that kind of idea, that imagery. So it is the main player in Profumo, and it is going to be the main player in Profumo. Forget the incense and patchouli that everybody's talking about. That is your theme in this fragrance. It's still an aquatic-like tone fragrance. Now, in the opening, that's all you're getting. That's your base. And it has a short-lived bergamot that hits you in the face just a little bit up top. But that aquatic tone always gets piggybacked, especially with this one, with the herbal tone. So it gives you a blue-green feel to the fragrance. So you're going to get some rosemary. You're going to get that peppery geranium that comes through, and that sage, which steals a huge page out of this, the OG. Now, showing those blue and green facets, it really does remind me of the OG. And I felt this opening is less bright than this guy. But, and that's going to show much later in this fragrance, that it is much less bright. But it has the same, I would have to say the same skeleton. The complexity is better in the original. It has a lot more going with it. This one has a lot less going. It's more linear. There's not much moving parts in this fragrance. It's blue-green and then it tries to be black, more grayish. Now, more into the heart of this scent, it transitions into emphasizing the herbal tones in this fragrance. It's trying to step back the aquatic or the ozonic feel in this fragrance, and it takes the role of being in the background. It's always going to be in the background. You're always going to smell that ozonic aquatic feel in Profumo, but the herbs are led by the rosemary in this one. The sage it's not far behind, but it is there, and the geranium pairs well with that rosemary, actually. This opening has always been very versatile, ozonic, easy to throw on, uplifting, and with Profumo's backbone, you're going to get a slight edge to the fragrance, so it's going to have a little bit of darkness to the fragrance. The synthetic ozonic aquatic and rosemary combo, which was made popular back in the 90s, brings me back to that time frame. It really does. This really feels out of place in the late 2018-19 season. You can feel some darkness peeking through at this point in the heart and the fragrance, but it never shows much personality. It's almost a fog over the original ADG. This is the time where Profumo just loses me, and it probably gained a lot of popularity because of this transition, but for me, it lost me. I'm like, okay, incense and heavy patchouli and ADG, that sounds good. I'm excited. If you're getting a really dark incense, I should have known better, a really dark incense and a really green patchouli, you might have a really great fragrance on your hands. However, Profumo didn't do that. Profumo went hyped on reviews. We all know fragrance reviews talk about the incense and patchouli as the main cogs in this fragrance and how well they're done and how much a difference they make. No. Now onto my thoughts on this darkness in Profumo. It's very general, no personality, no true face to the incense, nor the patchouli. Let's start with the incense. Let me kick it. The incense shows no smoke, no resinous quality. It's mild. It feels like cold incense. It was truly underwhelming to me on my wearings, and I really wanted it to kick me in the nose with a solid smoky incense backbone to an ADG fragrance. Well, it never happened. Sadly, I think they would have not sold as many units if they had a big, bold incense in this fragrance. I understand, but they drowned it out. They watered it down to, you can't even discern if this is incense. I don't feel any incense. Like, I feel like a black fog in this fragrance, not an incense note. And unfortunately, Profumo, it didn't work for me. Now onto the patchouli. The patchouli, a little nicer than the incense. It's the same type of story as the incense. There's no personality to it. There's no dankness. There's no heavy green nuances. I am going to attest, yes, the patchouli in here shows more patchouli than the incense shows of incense. But overall, it's a very general incense and patchouli combo that throws a dark fog over the ADG recipe. Personally, I felt like Armani saw Bleu de Chanel's success and its patchouli incense fog in that fragrance, and I'm going to get to that fragrance too, and kind of just copied that style, copy paste, put it on ADG, and voila, you got Profumo. Let the sales begin. So you may like Bleu de Chanel and you may like this, and there's a reason for it. They mesh together. That incense patchouli, they're utilized in a different way, but at the same time, it is the same type of fog that there's no real personality to the fragrance. So what's the X factor, the X note in this fragrance? The X factor in Profumo for me is that it had a slight mineral-like quality from top to bottom, which is something I truly appreciate in this fragrance. I really did like that. This may be from that incense, and it pairs well with the ozonic quality. So that is one thing that I truly appreciated, and that's the X factor in this fragrance. Now, a new feature on my fragrance reviews is this fragrance for collectors, new heads. Is it a Swiss Army knife, or is it for the old heads out there? I feel like Profumo will be for the new heads out there in the game. Definitely goes in that Swiss Army category. Old heads may feel that Profumo is an upgrade to ADG, and they might purchase this instead of the old classic. To a collector like me, it's a piece that goes behind the classic because I feel like the classic is still well made. It's a classic for a reason. It still reminds me of the 90s, but it has much more complexity than this fragrance. And it is basically built for the same type of reasoning why I would wear these fragrances. I think the Essenza version of this thing right here is actually a much better release than this one. That's my honest take. I really like the brightness in Essenza. I really love what they did with that one. People keep saying that this is an improvement of the original because the reformulation of the original. I don't see it. So as far as my ratings go, let's take a look at some ratings that are scent-wise. Uniqueness, Profumo is going to get 5 bottles out of 10. Definitely not a unique release from the house of Armani. And that goes to scent-wise. What I just described to you, I'm going to give it 6 bottles out of 10. It didn't do it for me. It's still very average. It's not a dumpster fragrance, but I really feel like if you do have a lot of fragrances, or at least you got 4 or 5, or you're really into this, there's much better for the price range at the same time. And we're going to talk about price too. Now, the next category on this one is performance and feedback. So first and foremost, my sprays. I like to go 1 on the chest, 2 on the neck, so 1 on each side, and then 2 on the arms. I'm wearing a long sleeve, but I got it rolled up, so inner elbows is usually my preferred spraying. So 5 sprays. I go more during the winter months because you can wear this in the winter, and less during the warmer months. I highly recommend, this is great for summer nights, by the way. I don't think summer days, the high heat, didn't work for me too much, but surprisingly did very well during the fall and the winter as a daily workhorse for me. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Versatility, this thing is going to be through the roof. Let's get into the ratings of this. So longevity, this fragrance is going to get 7 bottles out of 10. It gave me 6 to 8 hours any given wearing. So I usually look for around 7 to 9 hours for a daily workhorse like this. So it's a little short on me, but even then, 7 bottles out of 10 is a really good score. I think it can do the job as far as longevity goes. Projection, 6 bottles out of 10. I felt like this one's very average. I didn't see any beast mode. I know that some people were saying 10 plus hours on this one as far as longevity. Projection like a beast. For me, it was just very average, and it's almost exactly what I'm looking for in a daily wear type of fragrance. This one's very average. As far as compliment factor, much higher score here. We got 8 bottles out of 10. Higher than usual. It's a very safe fragrance, and when you wear it daily, you know, something like at the office or something like that, you're going to get some compliments with this one, a little more than some that are closer to the skin. This one does project a little bit, so you got to be word of the wise as far as sprays go, especially if you're going into the office. Now let's get into the next category, versatility. Let's take a look at it. Seasons. This is almost a Swiss Army knife that you can wear all the time. I feel like it's best for spring. The Canadian spring, this one, I could almost close my eyes and wear it anytime. Day, night, it's rainy, it's cold, it's hot. Didn't matter. In the spring, it did its thing. Same with fall, kind of like a tweener. Summer, I felt like summer nights are best with this one, but it can be an all-season frag. Night or day, I really felt like this one, oh, you know, it's advertised as Profumo, the black bottle. Oh, you know, you can wear ADG during the day, ADG Profumo during the night. I felt like this one's more of a daytime scent, just like the original ADG. A little darkness to it, but I don't feel like this one was a date night scent. I don't think it has enough personality to it personally. I know people try to transition this as a nighttime scent, but I felt like this one's not playful enough or even classy enough. I really felt like this one was missing that oomph for a nighttime scent. It was more of a daytime scent to me. Almost advertised as more of a darker scent. Not really for me. Occasions. Occasions with this one, anything really. Swiss Army knife, signature scent approved. I'll approve that for signature scent. I really feel like this can be if you own 1 bottle, this is the kind of scent you're looking for. This, you know, Bleu de Chanel, those type of fragrances are like Swiss Army knives. You can wear them casually, formally, work appropriate, signature scent worthy. And that's the one thing with these type of fragrances. You're going to lose a lot of, there's a lot of blah in this type of fragrance, but there's also some utility out of this fragrance too. So versatility, as far as the score goes, I'm going to give it 8 bottles out of 10. It's a really good score. One of its strong points, I would have to say. And again, I'm not poo-pooing on the fragrance itself. It has a lot of good points, and it's going to get a decent score from me, but it's not going to get a 10 out of 10 as far as scent-wise. So keep it tuned in on that. Let's get into value. As far as value goes, Armani as a brand, Ouch. They think they're Dior and Chanel. They don't. They're not. So let's take a bottle sizes available. I got the little mini. I got the 1.35 ounce bottle. There's no magnetic cap on this one. They cheapened me out. And it's not cheap. They got a 2.5 ounce available, 4.2 ounce available, and a mega big bottle, 10 ounce fragrance. Now pricing, it'll vary from $70 to $240. So those are Chanel Dior pricing. Obviously the 200 plus is for the big boy, the 10 ounce bottle. But other than that, man, this is pricey stuff. Armani has always been expensive and as far as discounters go, Armani, they don't really go down in price. It's the same like Christian Dior, and even if you do find some Chanels, they won't be discounted that much. They are tight. As far as pricing goes, it's not going to move much unless they really don't sell. I'm trying to think of an Armani fragrance that is really discounted. I can't really think of it, but they'll be, discounted just a bit. Availability, this one's easy. Availability is everywhere. So this is not one of those that you're like, oh, let's go blind buy this sucker. No, go test it out. There's samples everywhere. And that goes to pricing versus quality. And this is one thing that hurts Armani as a brand as a whole. I'm going to give this one 5 bottles out of 10. It's fairly average. Just piggybacking on ADG. This is all this is, I feel personally. So I'm going to give it a 5. And that goes to my final thoughts on this particular fragrance. So, positives to take away. Very safe. It does last on your skin. You're not going to get a 3-hour fragrance on this one and you're going to complain about performance. And it's non-offensive. Those are very positive things about this fragrance. Very versatile. It's one of those that if you're really new to the game, you got $100 to burn, you could probably do better. And you could do better as far as quality, but at the same time, as far as versatility and stuff like that, you don't have to think about it. This is one of the better ones for that. Now, negatives to take away. Nothing unique, very safe for someone that has a lot of bottles in their fragrances. If you got a lot of bottles, you probably already have a fragrance that will do this. And the DNA feels kind of nutty-ish to me. It really does. So final thoughts, my overall thoughts on Profumo is I'm not on the hype train. Drop me off at the next station. I just jumped on the hype train just to give it a try, give it its due on my skin. I've tried it. I don't like it. I'm off the train. The drawback with this one is its uniqueness. It smells like the original. Some say it's the older, more mature one. F that noise. I don't see it. It's just throwing a fog over the original to make it slightly darker. That's all it is. To me, don't be fooled by the top seller motto, the hype train, the dark bottle, or the Profumo name. I don't see this as an evening type scent, but more of a Swiss Army knife like the original. The big disappointment in reviews was the big talk. The huge talk about patchouli and incense, making this one a huge difference in this scent. However, I felt they were mediocre at best. Huge disappointment for me. And it was just an add-on to a best-selling formula. That's all it was. Some say it's really good at everything. To me, it excels at nothing. The only thing I see this work well is for someone that does not have many fragrances. And I'll be honest with you, if you don't have too many fragrances, you got that money to burn, there's a few options out there for you that you won't stand out too much. Mr. Safe, this is one of those, Mr. Safe. You're just going to be, in your zone with this one. It will do well for you. This release kind of reminds me of what Dolce & Gabbana did with their bestseller in the 90s, Puram. They did a release called Intenso. It didn't do as well as this one, I'll be honest. A nice bottle. I was hoping for the best. I was really like, oh, the hype's there. The selling is there. It's selling well. But I just got something that was okay. And this is something that kind of scratches my head. Like ADG didn't get a flanker until like the 2000s. Like it's been a while. And they finally kind of piggybacked on the name and said, hey, we can make a profit with these kind of flankers. And now they're flankering up like crazy. Now Code, we're not safe with Armani. They got Code and now they got this and they're just flankering up. Overall, I don't hate it. I don't. It's good, but that's it. Don't over analyze this one as as a 10 out of 10, a number one on everybody's top 10 list. I don't think it's that good. So my overall score for Profumo, I'd have to give this one a solid 7 bottles out of 10. I can see the reason why some people like it, but for me, it's going to be one of those I'll wear it from once in a while. Will it ever hit one of my top 20s? Maybe. I'll never say no, but it's hard. Even ADG is a classic. I not that I love the fragrance, but I think it's a classic. I respect it, and sometimes it works for me, and it does peek into some of my top 20s. Not very often, but sometimes it does. So what would I recommend? Now, I got rid of Buy, Try, or Pass. That's out of my fragrance reviews now. It's purchase, sample, or forget about it. I would have to say sample. And the only reason I say that is because, for a few reasons, it's everywhere to sample. So trust your own nose. You don't have to trust the guy in the pink shirt. You don't have to trust all the other guys that put it in their top 10s and blind buy it. Just go try it out and see if it's up your alley. It's solid. You can do worse, but you can also do better. Now, thank you for watching my thoughts on Acqua Di Gio Profumo. Have you smelt this fragrance? I'm sure you have. What are your thoughts on it? Good, bad, and the ugly. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Please share it with the community. If you do like my content, maybe you don't like the end result of my content, but I do work hard, please give me that like. And if you did stick around and you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Come subscribe, hit that bell so you can be part of my notification gang. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can just look up Robes08 and you'll see my mug. I also have a Facebook fragrance page that has over 15,300 members. Join us today on FGN. I'm going to leave you all with takes from all my social media. I asked everybody on social media what they thought on this fragrance. Good or bad, I am going to share it with you at the tail end of this video. As always, a greater pour fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching, you.